What's up, Joe? Thank you for your detailed explanation of intermittent fasting. That was very interesting, and actually, since you've posted that video, I've started to implement it a little bit. I'm fasting for at least 12 hours a day, but I'm trying to get as close to 14 as I can, while keeping a 10-hour eating window, anywhere between 10 and 12-hour eating window, which I know isn't the greatest, but it's better than what I have been doing, which is pretty much eating whenever I was hungry. But this way, I'm allowing myself both some time before I go to bed and some time in the morning to allow my body to burn fat without keeping food in my stomach for it to burn. As you can see, I'm drinking a mostly delicious green smoothie right now. I'll make a video that kind of shows what goes into it at some point, but this one, the majority of it is spinach and cucumber, and have some green apple in there and some strawberries. So I'll do another video and I'll show you everything that goes in it, but this is kind of my way of getting my micronutrients first thing in the morning. So I do pretty good about having one most days throughout the week, but on the weekends I'm not always very good about it, but if not, I'll try to at least get a salad in. So you ended the last video asking about ketosis, so that's where I'm going to start, and I'm going to try to make it so that the majority of this video is about ketosis and the ketogenic diet, and just kind of give an overview about what it is, how it works, and then really specify as to what the cyclical ketogenic diet is, since that's what you're referring to and that's what you're planning on doing. So the long and short of it is that ketosis is a fat burning state. When you're in ketosis, you're using fat as your main source of fuel, as your main source of energy, as opposed to carbohydrates, which most people most of the time are. Most people most of the time are burning carbohydrates as their main source of energy. But when you're in ketosis, you're actually burning fat. Similar to how carbohydrates turn into glucose in the body, and then the body burns glucose as your form of energy, when the body burns fat, the fat turns into something called ketones. And when the body burns ketones, that's what ketosis is. You're in ketosis when your body is using ketones as your main form of energy. Alright, so how do you get into ketosis? How do you get into this fat burning state? Well, there are two ways. One, you can get there by fasting. You can go into fasting ketosis. And two, you can get there through nutritional ketosis. In other words, the ketogenic diet. Fasting ketosis is pretty self-explanatory. You just fast. You don't eat. Normally it takes anywhere between 24 and 48 hours on average from what I've read, but it's different from person to person. You can tell that you're in ketosis by using something called keto strips. You can pick them up at pretty much any drugstore or pharmaceutical store. They're intended for diabetics, but it's an over-the-counter product. You buy it, it's a little stick that you pee on, and it'll tell you whether you're in ketosis or not in ketosis. So that's getting into ketosis by fasting. Nutritional ketosis is a little bit more comfortable way to get into ketosis. Whereas in fasting ketosis, you're depending on your body relying on your fat reserves to go into ketosis, to start burning fat that way. Nutritional ketosis, you are going into ketosis by eating fat, by consuming the majority of your calories throughout the day through fat. So in a ketogenic diet, it's not uncommon to see the macro breakdown as fat being anywhere from like 70 to 90% of a diet, and protein and carbs making up the rest, making up the small majority. By making fat your main macronutrient, you're making your body, you're forcing your body to rely on fat as its main source of energy, and therefore it brings you into ketosis, into that fat burning state. Now, whichever route you choose to go, whether you choose to do fasting ketosis or the ketogenic diet to get you into ketosis, if you plan on staying in ketosis, your end goal is ultimately going to be the ketogenic diet either way. So if you start with fasting ketosis, after a couple days, once you get into ketosis, you go to the ketogenic diet. Alternatively, you can just start with the ketogenic diet, and it might take a little bit longer that way, but that's going to be the end goal either way. Some people may just start with fasting ketosis because it gets you there faster. I just want to make that clear because I don't want you to think that I'm saying that you just don't eat and that's your form of ketosis, because that's not what you do. When you're making this transition, whether you're going into fasting ketosis or into the ketogenic diet, you're gonna have low energy. You're gonna notice that your energy goes down. You're not gonna have that glucose to burn that your body's used to. While your body's making that transition, you're ultimately gonna go through something most often referred to as keto flu. It's called that because there are a lot of flu-like symptoms, just really low energy, feeling fatigued, lightheaded. Don't panic, it's normal. Takes anywhere between a couple days and a week to go through. Again, it's different from person to person, but just push through it, focus, you can get there, and then at the end of it, you'll actually notice that your energy levels are higher than they ever have been in your entire life that you've been burning glucose. The reason for that is because fat is a much more sustainable form of energy. You see, we can eat fat, we can ingest it, we can consume it, but then once our body has burned through it, it knows to go to our fat reserves to sustain that energy level that we've had throughout the day. So unlike glucose, where you need to keep eating every 2 hours or eating every however many hours you eat, and keeping those glucose levels up, with the ketogenic diet, you can eat some fat, not eat for a while, and then after that food in your stomach's been burned, your body will go to your fat reserves to just keep that energy level. You have a consistent energy level throughout the day, so you won't feel that crash and burn that you feel when carbohydrates are your main source of energy. So again, you're gonna get that keto flu whether you do fasting ketosis or you do nutritional ketosis, but I would recommend doing nutritional ketosis most of the time just because it's less bad than doing fasting. When you don't eat at all, you're really gonna suffer. So you can save yourself some pain and still get the same benefits by just going into nutritional ketosis. Okay, so now we know what ketosis is, we know how to get into it. What is the cyclical ketogenic diet? What is cyclical ketosis? So Joe, for people like you and me who are trying to build and maintain muscle mass, we rely on glycogen in our muscles for repair, recovery, and growth. Although we don't need glucose, we don't need carbohydrates as a source of fuel, particularly when we're in ketosis. Our muscles do rely on glycogen, which also comes from carbohydrates, to recover, build, and ultimately maintain that muscle mass. So the question becomes, how can I stay in this ketogenic fat burning state and keep glycogen in my muscles so that I can repair and recover and grow and or maintain this muscle that I'm trying to put on? How can I get the best of both worlds? You know, cutting fat, building muscle. That's every bodybuilder or fitness enthusiast dream, right? The answer to that is a cyclical ketogenic diet. You see, what this allows you to do is stay in ketosis for essentially most of the time 6 out of 7 days of the week, and then on that 7th day of the week, you have something called a refeed day, also known as carb loading days. Basically what these refeed days do are switch the ratios of macronutrients around. So on refeed day, you're eating high carb, low fat. Now these refeed days accomplish several things. One, you're refilling glycogen stores. Lucky for us, when we have a high carb day and we refill those glycogen stores in our muscle, depending on how heavy or how light you're lifting throughout the week, those glycogen stores can last you for a good 6 days. Our muscles can actually hold glycogen for us until we need it, and when we do need it, we can use it up. Throughout the week, we're gonna lift hard and we're gonna work hard and we're gonna deplete those glycogen stores up until the very last day of ketosis that we're in, and then on our refeed day, we have that high carb day. We're taking in all these carbohydrates, filling in those glycogen stores in our muscles, and then when we go back into ketosis for the next 6 days, we're lifting hard. We've refilled those glycogen stores, and then by the end of that week of ketosis, we've depleted them again. So that's kind of why the cyclical ketogenic diet has that cycle in it, because you're cycling the ketosis between being in that ketogenic state and the refeed day where you're eating really high carbohydrates. Benefit number 2 is that by switching between the ketogenic state and burning glucose, you can actually make your body more effective at going back into ketosis. The first several times you have your refeed day, you may notice it takes a couple days for you to get back into ketosis after you've had your refeed day, but just know that every time you do it, your body should be getting a little bit better at going back into ketosis after switching back to glucose for your carb loading day. The third benefit of the cyclical ketogenic diet is kind of the physical, emotional elements of it. See, by the end of that 6th day of your ketogenic state, you're going to be craving carbs. You're going to be wanting carbs more than you've wanted anything in your life. So the refeed day is an opportunity to have a sort of cheat day. You shouldn't be going too crazy, but a lot of people will use this day as their cheat day to accomplish 2 things. One, fill their glycogen stores, and also give themselves a little bit of break from their strict diet. That's kind of the emotional aspect of it, just craving the food and kind of getting the food that you actually want. But as far as the physical aspect of it though, every coin has 2 sides. See, once you have this refeed day, you're going to notice that the carbs that you eat make you feel like shit. Now, this can be prevented to a certain extent based on the types of carbs that you eat, but if you're going to be eating a lot of breads and pastas and grains, your body's going to be so used to being in this efficient source of energy burning, this efficient fat burning state, that when you switch back to carbs, and especially bad forms of carbs like the sugars and the inflammatory foods, you're just going to notice that you're just going to crash. It's going to taste really good at first, but then when you're done eating it, you're going to feel bloated, you might feel a little bit sick, a little bit nauseous, and you're just going to feel kind of dizzy and cloudy. Cloudy is a good word for it. That's a word that you'll see a lot of people describe it as, just kind of a haze over your mental clarity. Ultimately, another benefit of this though is that it's going to make you ready to go back into that healthy ketogenic state, because often when we feel like shit, at least for me, I know that I'm ready to go back into healthy eating. I'm ready to go back into the diet that made me feel like I had the most energy and made me feel the most productive. So in summary, ketosis, fat burning state, burning fat as your main source of energy. Getting into ketosis, you can do it by either fasting or by nutritional ketosis, i.e. the ketogenic diet. And 3, cyclical ketosis, you're eating by the ketogenic diet 6 days of the week. Then on that 7th day, you're having your refeed day, filling those glycogen stores, and ready to crush it throughout the week. Joe, I hope I did a relatively good job of explaining this. I know I kind of jumped around from time to time, but if you have any questions or if you have anything that you want to add, because I know you know a lot about this too, I'd love to hear your thoughts. So Joe, in your next video, what I'd really like to hear is what your diet is going to look like. I know you're planning on bulking on the ketogenic diet, which isn't as common as seeing it as a cutting phase, but I know it's been done before. I don't know too much about that, but I want to hear about what you're doing and what your plan is. So I'm really looking forward to your diet and what you have planned out for your nutrition. So I'm looking forward to your next video. I'll talk to you soon, man.